How's that? I'm thankful for being here. I've been in Europe since the 12th of June doing different events in different countries. This is my last event. I go home tomorrow, so that's good. The best way that this class works is you talk, you ask questions, you discuss among yourselves. So we have some exercises we'll do. At any point in time you have a question, just ask, okay? A lot of information to cover in a short period of time. I did this class yesterday in Groningen at Martini. I may skip over some slides based on when I did this yesterday because I ran out of time. It was about the same length class. We might skip some exercises also, and because I want to at least talk a little bit about every topic we have. If you have any questions about anything I say in English, stop me and ask me to either slow down or say it a different way, and we'll be okay. So let's get started. And I'm going to be moving around. I don't have a remote, but it's okay. So here's what I'd like you to learn today is understand performance measurements for lean healthcare. And these measurements are probably different than measurements you use today. We're going to talk about a tool, a financial an analysis tool called the box score. And we're going to break it. There's 3 components to it. Performance measurements is one component. We're going to break the box score down. I'm going to explain how you create one. And so really, if you learn why it's beneficial to use, that's good. Oh, you have one. Understanding capacity. Capacity is another component of the box score. Why is it important to understand and measure capacity in lean healthcare and when we're doing analysis? And finally, how do you get started on doing all this? I've been lucky enough to be teaching everything I write about in the book I've been doing the teaching and consulting for almost 20 years. Prior to that, I was a CFO and worked in a lean organization. It was manufacturing, not healthcare. I do have 3 years of actual practical experience putting or implementing lean in a hospital in the US. A colleague and I, we worked at that hospital for about 3 years, so I learned a whole lot about how healthcare works, how lean works in healthcare, how the numbers work, and hopefully I can share some stories. All right. So in your book, you're going to see these action item forms. And this is really something that comes out of what's called the Kata methodology, which is coaching in lean. And so at the end of each session, or each topic, we're going to have one of these. And the idea is to just take a few minutes and write down your thoughts at the end of each topic. And the way that the coaching, I don't know, anybody familiar with the Kata methodology? Okay, for anybody who's not familiar. Okay, I'll explain it then real fast. Coaching is an important part of any lean transformation in any organization because lean is about learning. And so it's sort of like school, the school model. I mean, if you're a student, how do you learn? You need someone to teach you. And as opposed to teacher-student, it's sort of coach and learner, but it's the same model. And the idea is to coach helps a person or a team of people to think the right way in a lean setting in order to solve a problem or discover what the problems are. So the way I want you to go through these is, the first topic is, what is the target condition? So this is, where do you want to be? And so for the purpose of this class, what I'd like you to do is think about where you would like to be by the end of 2019. Don't worry about beyond that, okay? Which is really about, how do we get started doing this in your organization? Then talk about, and then write down a few notes. Where are we today? So where are we? Where do we want to go? Where are we today? This is one of the keys, is understanding the problems and obstacles and issues that are preventing us from getting there. What are the known ones? And then what would be the next steps that we would take? So again, this is going to be a rapid exercise. We probably won't share, in the class, but it's just a way to take some notes. And so these forms are in your book and will pop up after each topic. So, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being least, 5 being the most, when you think about the current state of the information, whether it's operational and or financial, that is used inside your organization to manage and measure the business. That's what I'm talking about. Relevant. So on a scale of 1 to 5, does the information that is provided today improve the decision maker's capabilities to either predict better or provide more accurate feedback on recent activities? How would you rate that? 1 to 5. Well, and you could call this, this is discussion, so, just give me your number, and you might, if you know a reason, give a reason, but 2, okay. 2.
I think there's a difference between operational and financial. I think financial might be a 3 or a 4, but operational might be a 2.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? 3? Okay. Yeah. Second, how reliable is the information? Reliability is defined as the information actually represents the activities that it is supposed to represent. Now this really, reliability is in the eyes of the user of the information. 3?
Same organization, 2.
Okay, that's fine. I did this yesterday, and it's interesting how people from the same organization answer differently. I mean, we had 20 people from Martini, and they were all answering it differently. Anyone else?
I know the 1 because I guess in one system the data can be accurate, but the system doesn't connect to each other, so
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
a lot of differences.
And finally, the information is always timely and useful. Timely means the decision makers have it when they need it. Useful is they can use it to make their decisions. Okay.
They don't make the decisions on the information outcome.
Okay. Are you in finance?
Yes.
Okay. Three? Okay. So, this is the opportunity. This is what we're striving for today. If you get anything out of this, because it's, in a lean healthcare setting, we need reliable, relevant information to make decisions. That's the goal. We're trying to improve the quality of the decision making.
Can you tell us something about the level of information? For example, at the executive level, the information might be enough and to make the right decision. But on the operation, lower levels in the organization,
Right.
we're missing the we're missing the
Yes.
information to improve processes or to
Right.
make decisions for.
Yes. There's lots of customers inside the business. They all have specific needs. And so the goal is to meet the exact needs of the customers that are using the information, your internal customers. And that's really just from the role of finance. That's what your job is inside the business. For reporting outside the business, we learn how to do that. I'm an accountant, I'm a finance person. We learn how to report externally, and there's rules we have to follow, right? And we can do it. We know we have to do it. Because if we don't do it, number one, I probably won't have a job. Secondly, that's our professional responsibility to uphold those rules and report the right way. We have that role. Well, you really want to assume that same role for the inside information. It's just that we're not following the same rules that we do externally. And you have different customers with different needs at different times. So that's what this is all about. Improving the quality of the information. And what's the best way to find that out? What's the best way to find out what you need to do? Ask your customers. I mean, the whole lean accounting movement, which, it really started in manufacturing in the US in probably the late 80s, early 90s. The whole lean accounting idea and concept started in lean manufacturing. And it started because people that were involved in lean operations were getting terrible information from accounting. And they said, no, we don't want it. And so that's how lean accounting got started. And even to this day, there are many, many lean manufacturing companies that are still providing the wrong information to accounting. It's still going on. So that's why I get to work. I mean, if everybody starts doing it, then, I'm going to have to go write another book. So that's what this is about. And when you're trying to learn something new, that's what this topic is, you have to keep sort of the concepts in mind. Understand the concepts, and then all the details begin to make sense. Okay? The concept is why do we have to do this? What are these tools? And everything is related to improving the quality of the decision making with relevant and reliable information. It's as simple as that. So what I'm going to do at the end is these same three questions will come up, and you can think about how you would like to answer these questions maybe in 6 months. Lean in healthcare. Think about the economics 101, supply and demand. What does lean do financially? First of all, it continuously improves productivity of the resources, the people and the machines that do the work. Because of that, it manages costs. It manages costs by improving managing productivity. On the supply side, or I'm sorry, on the demand side, revenue, well, first of all, it increases patient satisfaction. Secondly, you create the ability to see more patients. And if you can see more patients, you will get more revenue, right? No?
You have a budget.
You have a budget, okay. But in some places you can't, right? Yeah, okay. I know the model's a little different in the US than it is here in Europe. But that's the idea, the ability to see more patients and provide better care. That's how lean works. So I'm not going to talk much about lean other than that, unless there's some questions. Here's another idea to remember. Numbers drive the way people think. And the thinking drives behaviors. The behaviors drive decisions, and then the decisions drives the numbers. This is what the cycle we're in. So you have a current state of operational and financial information that is being used in the business, and it's driving this. So we're going to talk about some new types of information today. And the idea is this information has to be put into this cycle. And people have to be coached and learn how to use the new information. You can't just sort of give someone the information, say, here, do it. They have to practice, they have to learn it. So this is a learning process, just like lean is a learning process. The issue, which is a little different, well, maybe not that different in lean, sometimes the old information doesn't go away. So you have this new information, you still have the old information. So now, how do you get someone to go this way and not keep looking back at the old information? That's one of the challenges. So that's what requires coaching. And I think this is one of the most important responsibilities for the finance people, is they have to assume the initial coaching roles to explain the information, to allow people to ask questions about the information, challenge the information if necessary. You gotta let people go through the learning process. And people will get used to the new information once they can relate it to what they're doing and how the organization is running. So this is also an important thing to keep in mind. And I'm sorry, I don't have a monitor, so I got to keep looking backwards, see what the screen is. So this concept of the box score, which we're going to talk about in detail. And when I was doing lean in healthcare, I sort of came up, how do you explain all this to healthcare people? The box score is the vitals of value stream. Just like a patient, you take vitals on a patient. That's what the box score is. What are the key, and when a patient, comes, it depends on, what the problem is with the patient. But, if you go in just if I go in for a routine visit, You know, what do? They check your weight, they check your blood pressure, they take your temperature. Those are the three things. Those are the vitals. Now, if I was in the hospital for something, the vitals may be different until things stabilize. So that's how you think of the box score. What are the vitals? What do we have to measure in lean healthcare to really understand how lean healthcare operation is working? Is it getting better? Are we making the right decisions? What's the health of the box score? And how can it be done very quickly? That's the idea. So we're going to look at 5 to 7 key lean performance measures that tell us how the operation is performing, the process or the value stream is performing using lean practices and tools. And is it getting better? Is the process getting better? That's what and we'll talk about these measures in a little more detail. We want to look at the profitability, or at a minimum, the costs of the value stream. Costs are an outcome of operating performance. So what we want to do is start developing a relationship between performance and outcomes. Costs are outcomes. And maybe even include the revenue, but at a minimum, let's include the costs. The third piece is capacity. By the way, when you make an improvement, what do you gain? Any old improvement, any lean improvement, what do you gain? Yeah, you get better quality, but you get better quality, why? What's the immediate gain from an improvement, for most improvements? Less costs. Time. You gain time. You free up time. How much, and then you use that time to improve quality. Now, you may reduce some actual costs, we'll talk about that, but for the most part, it's about time. So how do we measure that? Anybody measuring it today, that if you run an improvement event, how much time do you gain? No. Now, and if we gain more time, how does that show up financially? It doesn't. That's sort of the mystery of lean. And this confuses many people about lean. Why? My own personal theory, which has not been tested, is that in business we are so conditioned to, we do something and we expect to see a result quickly. Cause effect. And most of the time, we want, the easiest way to see the benefit of doing something is a financial outcome. So we're conditioned to do that. Lean doesn't work that way. The financial benefits of lean are not direct nor immediate. So again, we're still conditioned, do something, see results. Do something, see results in the short term. That here's this idea called lean. And, when somebody explains it, oh yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. We need to do it. What's the impact? Well, it's going to take time. What? It's going to take time? Why do I want to do this? So we measure capacity in the box score to see that immediate impact. How much waste are we eliminating is translated to how much non-productive time is being eliminated and how much available time is being created.
How do you measure, like observe and register, or?
No, we'll talk about that. It's not time tracking, it's a periodic measurement, really basically when you make an improvement, a major improvement.
And something else, most of our organizations are organized in silos, and not in value streams.
Right.
So how do you come to get to measure the value stream as opposed to, or is it opposed to the silo?
Well, we had this discussion yesterday at Martini, and actually we had this discussion at the hospital that we worked in with Lean is what are the value streams. And I think the easiest way to look at the value streams initially, because the idea of, okay, let me back up. What's the idea of a value stream from a Lean viewpoint? What are we trying, why do we want to understand value streams?
To detect the root cause of the problem?
Yeah, but, yeah,
Seeking activities that add value to
yeah.
the patient.
And we're trying to flow the work through the value stream, whatever the patient, we want to flow the patient through in the right time, at the right speed, create the right quality, the right outcome. In manufacturing, we want to receive an order and we want to build the product and deliver it as fast as possible with the right quality. So it's about flow. And value streams work this way, organizations are structured this way. The problem in the hospital, in healthcare, is there's lots of different patient flows. You could look at it from, a cardiac patient flows this way. A patient with a neurological issue flows this way. Okay, but what they're doing is they're flowing through the functions. But it's sometimes it's difficult because the function may work in more than one of those patient flows. So the idea of actually, reorganizing this value stream could be, according to the patient flows, could be difficult. So in general, a functional deployment of box scores works. For example, we want to flow the patients through the emergency department. We want to flow the patients through the surgery or inpatient or outpatient or clinics, whatever you may have. So you can deploy the box scores at that level and still achieve the same thing. So I'm going to call them value streams, but from your viewpoint, that's fine, doing it. I don't know, again, I've only worked in one hospital. I don't know if there's other hospitals that are advanced beyond that, but it's a little bit of it, it's really difficult given the nature of healthcare. So the box score is the relevant, reliable information that will improve the quality of the decisions in Lean healthcare and any Lean organization, because it's all about understanding the relationships between these three components and watching the numbers move based on what's going on operationally and developing cause and effect thinking. That's what we're going to be talking about. Any questions? The clock, by the way, in the back is not right because it's 16:55. So I call these dynamic relationships because the actual value stream operating activities change. You have different variables, the variability of the patients, the variability of the resources, the variability of having to treat different types of issues with patients. There's a lot of variability. And so it's understanding this. That's the key. So now what I wanted to do is dive deep into the box score, and we're going to talk about how you create, what should the measures be and how do you create them. So the overall system, how many of you are using lean performance measurements, by the way? Okay, that's fine. So, we're putting a system in. It's not just the measures. That's what's important to understand. So we want to have good lean performance measures. We want to display them visually, in whatever part of the organization is being measured. We want managers to use the measures in their daily standard work. And we want teams to meet around the board, review the measures, do the root cause analysis. What's the purpose of lean performance measures?
Create insight.
Yes. Insight into what? And this is counterintuitive thinking than how non-lean organizations think. Insight into what?
Are we reaching our higher goals?
Yeah. But it's insight into the problems. No, I mean, we have goals we want to reach, but what are the problems that are preventing us from achieving the goal, which is counter to how we usually think in business. When you hear the people who really have been writing about lean for 30, 35 years, they talk about lean as a learning system. It's not a bunch of tools. It's not about value streams or flow. It's a learning system. So performance measures, lean performance measures, are designed to reveal the problems. What's preventing us from performing according to how we are supposed to perform? What's preventing us from achieving our goals, whether it's a daily goal or a weekly goal? So the most effective performance measurements in a lean organization are the ones that reveal the problems. That's why you have this whole system. It's not just reporting numbers. It's people looking at the problem. Oh, I got a nice big clock now. It's people reporting the measures, understanding the measures and the trend, and human beings talking and saying, what's the problem? And it's the people in that part of the business who understand it best. So it's not finance analyzing the numbers. It's the people analyzing the numbers. So we want measures to be linked to the overall lean strategy. And we call this process the linkage chart. So the idea is, what are the monthly measures that you call them monthly measures or strategic level measures that tell us if the lean strategy is working? Meaning, are we making progress? Now, monthly strategic type measures don't move very quickly, but overall, are we gaining ground? We also have weekly measures, which are value stream measures. Is the value stream improving over time? Then you have daily measures, which are in the operating cells. How did we do today? Or how did we do yesterday? Did we meet the targets we were supposed to meet? So if you think about lean from a problem-solving viewpoint, we're looking at problems on a daily basis. Did we achieve our goals for today? If not, why? The beauty of a daily measure is it's easy to understand why pretty fast. You can get to the root cause. On a weekly, is the value stream improving? We have all kinds of improvement activities going on. Are we making some progress towards these improvement targets? And strategically, same thing. So we have 3 levels of measuring problem solving. It really creates a culture in a lean organization about what's important. And I mentioned earlier, we're looking at 5 to 7 measures. So it creates a lot of focus. What is really, really important? That's really what we're trying to say here. Human beings cannot focus on 15 things at a time. You give a team of people 15 measures, they can't make it work. Give people 5 measures, they can focus. Because those are the only 5 things that are important. And they can begin relating what's happening operationally to those measures. And that's really what we're trying to do.
Can you also change over time those 5 measures? Or otherwise it's quite steady?
Well, it depends. I mean, you always have these goals that you're trying to reach. And the measure is really how far are you from the goal. Now, if you reach the goal, fine. But, if you have a goal of perfect quality, which is sort of the kind of goals you set in a lean organization, do you think you ever achieve perfect quality? No, but you try to keep getting better and better and better. If you have a goal of, 100% patient satisfaction, you try to get there, but you never do. So that's why the measures may change. They usually don't if you select the right measures and have the goals. And what should we be measuring? That's the key. We should be measuring quality. These are we're measuring process, by the way, we're not measuring people. So we want to measure quality. Now, I realize in healthcare that sometimes that's a difficult issue, but you have to define what is quality, and how do we know if we're delivering quality? What's a defect in the process? We might want to measure productivity. Are we spending more time on the right activities and improving the output of the process with the resources we have in that process? If you eliminate waste and you create time, and you use that time, you will become more productive. Flow. Are the supplies and the drugs that are supposed to flow into the process flowing at the right time? Are other services that are supposed to flow into the value stream flowing? There's lots of flow issues in healthcare. And besides the flow, is everything being delivered on time? Lead times. How long does the patient stay in the process? And sometimes, that varies depending on what the issue is. But you want to try to reduce lead times. over time, and manage your costs. Not necessarily cutting costs, but are costs going down over time? Costs were being reduced over time. Costs as a percentage of revenue is really what the measure is. Because most costs in healthcare are fixed. You know, how much you pay your people, you have these machines, you know, there's not a lot of, you know, a variable cost is a cost that changes in direct relation to a change in volume. So there might be some variable costs, but most costs are fixed. So these are the areas of process performance we want to measure. How many of you, and we want this combination. Now, how many of you think you have some of these measures in place? If you don't, that's fine. I mean, yeah. These measures align with lean practices and tools and principles. And that's why it's important. Lean is an overall strategy. So it's important to measure the right way. Now, I'm sure you have a lot of measures. So this is the challenge. The challenge is, you want to put the lean measures in place and then stop using any measure which could conflict with the lean measures. We're not adding 5 to 7 new measures and everything else. So part of the process of creating the measures is to evaluate what do we measure today, and do we need to stop measuring that this way or not. And there's a difference between a performance measure and what I call information. Okay, you know, how many patients visited the clinic today? That's just information. That's not measuring the process. We are measuring the process. So you have to distinguish that, because any organization these days that you have software systems, you can distribute as much information as you want, and you can organize it in many different ways. I mean, it's endless. I mean, that's one of the term that I've heard in the US in some companies is, that there's finance people, they are Excel jockeys. They know how to use Excel, and they can make anything happen and run all these reports and extract the data and do things to it and do what's it called, pivot tables and all that. There's nothing wrong with all that, but how much of it is useful? Huh? Yeah. So that's what we want to measure at the 3 levels: strategic, value stream, daily. We want our measures to be visual. This is an example of a visual measurement board at a hospital. And what do you notice about it? It's all handwritten. Why do you think that's important? Or do you think they were just cheap? There's a sense of ownership when you have to calculate the measure and do something, rather than it just show up on a computer screen, calculated for you. Remember when you were in school and the teacher was teaching you something. The teacher might do something on the board right? But then what did you have to do? You had to do the problem, or you had to write, right? You had the paper and the pencil and the pen and the eraser. You had to do things. That's the way you learn. And so when you set the measurement system up, you want it to be simple and easy so that the people, you want it to be simple and easy so that the parts of the organization that are being measured, that they can calculate the measure themselves and report it. Now, sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes some numbers come out of systems. That's okay. Most people will understand that. But here, they just did length of stay. They just used a simple piece of paper, and every day what was the average length of stay. And you can see this is good, that's bad. So it's very directional. And then what they had here is they wrote down, if they didn't hit their target, what was the reason? Remember, we're trying to learn. So this visual methodology and simple, easy measures is a very effective learning system. And, it's totally opposite of the way we think about information today. We think about information, computer systems, and they can do everything for us and give us the report. But you get a report, you don't know what the numbers are, you have to start asking, what are the numbers, where did the numbers come from? Yeah, well, I don't know what the numbers are. Oh yeah, I don't believe the numbers, right? Because remember the numbers drive thinking. So simple, easy, visible, smart also, meaning that the measure must be specific in terms and the deliverable outcome. Again, it has to be able to be measured against a standard, a specification, milestones, some time or something. You're measuring against something. Achievable. You want it to be, to improve the measure, it's not too easy to do, but it's not impossible to do. Why? Why do you want it to be achievable but tough? What are we trying to, what are measures supposed to reveal? Problems. So if you make it too easy to achieve the measure or the goal, are they gonna really be solving the right problems? Probably not. So you're trying to get people to think. I sort of call this creative tension, or creative, it's like, we gotta move this measure this much in this period of time. You want them to say, we don't know how, because then they have to go learn. Relevant, they have to be relevant to the part of the organization being measured, the cell or the value stream. And time bound. How much does the measure need to move or improve in what time frame? Many lean organizations, and in fact, the one when I was a CFO in the 1990s, we set an overall improvement target of 20% a year. Now, some measures moved more, some measures moved less, but overall, organizationally, the strategic goal was 20% improvement a year. We were lucky enough to do it, and I learned a lot, that it is achievable. But it's amazing, if you get people around that, a simple concept, and give them the tools to perform the activities to learn, they'll do it. But you got to set the targets. So measures need to be smart. So, if you're going through the process of creating measures, sort of have to ask yourself, does any measure we use meet all of these criteria? So what should we do in terms of specific measures? This is an example of a linkage chart. I know it's hard to see, but you build the measures using the linkage chart system, where you start with your strategy. Now, this company went from Triple Aim to True North to strategic goals. And then they had strategic measures, which measured how much progress are we making towards the goals. Then from there, you have what are the goals of the value stream? What does the value stream have to try to accomplish to help this measure move? And how's the value stream going to measure? And then you take it down to the cell and you do the same thing. So the linkage chart process allows you to create relevant measures for value streams and cells, but you can see everything is linked through the goals and the connecting lines back to the strategy. So the idea here is, if you measure this on a daily basis, you're measuring those 4 things, and if you're hitting your targets on a daily basis, that cell is performing properly to help the company achieve its long-term strategic goals. That's the message. The way you build this is you get the right people in the room and you go through the process from left to right. Usually the senior leaders might work on this piece, and then they train and educate each value stream, and then the value stream works on that piece.
So does that mean it always is a top-down situation in the organization? Because the top in the organization, they think about the strategy.
Yes.
So how can you get commitment from the people on the working floor? So
Well, I mean, these measures are for the senior leaders. And the senior leaders set the strategy. That's their responsibility. How do they deploy the strategy into the business? This is one of the methods. So usually we get to these measures, then we bring the value stream team in and say, okay, if this is the measure, which it's hard to read, improve productivity while also improving patient satisfaction, safety, and quality. Okay, so what do we have to do what's the goal of the value stream? That if they set a goal and they work towards that goal, then it will move that measure. And then how does the value stream measure it? What's the relevant measure? And in this case, it was reduced defects per million by 50%. So, this is one of the events that we facilitate. So we bring people in and we have them go through this exercise and develop it. And you develop this, by the way, using Post-it notes. This is a finished product, but you use the Post-it notes and paper on the wall, and because people change. But if you have a cross-functional team, if you even setting this, if you bring some value stream managers in with this, there's some feedback. Very collaborative. And another outcome of this is consensus. These are the measures, this is why the measures. And when you put people in the room and you give them a chance to talk and voice their opinions, but ultimately we have to finish this exercise, meaning we have to decide what these measures are. So this is just a very simple graphic. You identify the objective, define one or more measures for that objective, then define one or more value stream goals for those measures, and one or more value stream measurements for those measures. So that you sort of work this way. And when you do it, the first one, when you do it horizontally, people then understand the process, then it's easier, and you just keep moving down. So what should we measure? Productivity. A good healthcare example is that the hours worked per patient is the measure. And ultimately, hours worked per patient will go down if we're seeing more patients. And you can see more patients by eliminating waste and creating the time. Patient satisfaction, some level of a patient satisfaction score. Flow time, length of stay. Defect rate for quality, and cost is going to be average cost per patient. Those are pretty good measures to start with. And the whole point of lean performance measures is that you don't have to create them from nothing. You can listen to what other people are using and try it out. So, first exercise. What would you measure? So pick one area of your hospital or organization. You know, pick the emergency department, pick surgery, whatever you want to do. And again, you can work as a team. What would you pick as a possible measure? And it could be these same exact ones. It could be something that you already measure. The takeaway here is we want to measure those areas at a value stream level. What are the right measures? You can do the same thing for daily measures. Safety, quality, delivery, flow, cost. Some combination, maybe just safety, quality, delivery, cost. Safety is good to measure at the daily level. That's where you understand when incidents occur. Defects, also, it's very important to measure at the daily level because you get very good, it's simpler to understand the root cause and maybe even put in a solution. On-time starts or on-time delivery of daily services. Flow is schedule attainment. Are we completing what should be completed every day or not? And from a cost viewpoint, you could measure wait times. That's always very effective.
Wait times for who?
Patients, usually.
Yes.
Or other things. I mean, waiting is waste. And it depends on, I mean, again, if you just sort of take the concept of wait times, what in whatever area of the organization you're looking at, what should be measured? Can the wait times be reduced? And so you can do the same thing. We're not going to do this one, but you know, what are the measures that we could use on a daily basis in that area that meet the criteria of lean performance measures? So let's take a few minutes and turn to this page and just make some notes on performance measurements. And again, what I said is let's think about between now and the end of this year, you know, where would you like to be? Where do you think you are? And at least some problems and obstacles and you know, a couple ideas about what you might do to remove those obstacles. And we're not going to share this. This is just for you to make some notes before we move on to the next topic.